Hello and good evening. My name is Twesa Takula. Coming up in this bulletin. Opposition political parties in Parliament want proper audit in all government departments and ministries that have already drawn their allocation before the House approves additional allocations. Economic expert tips government to continue talks with the donor community to ensure resumption of full budget support. High Court in Lilongwe says former Deputy Chief of Tourism Mr. Leonard Kalonga and Angela Gatengeza have a case to answer against the state in the multi-billion Kwasha Cashgate. And in sports, Malawi football to be introduced on Africa's leading sports TV channel, SuperSport. Now the news in detail. Opposition political parties in Parliament have asked for proper audit in all government departments and ministries that have overspent during the past 6 months before the House approves additional allocations in the 2014-2015 national budget. Spokesperson on financial matters from Malawi Congress Party, People's Party and United Democratic Front say this thorough scrutiny has to be done in government institutions like the Malawi Police Service and the Malawi Defence Force, so that allocations to such institutions are properly approved. For the past 6 months, Malawi Defence Force has overspent with 63%, while Malawi Police Service has overspent with 153%. Jacqueline Khema reports.
It was clearly observed from the three spokespersons on financial matters of political parties that there has to be a critical review and details provided on how some government departments and ministries have spent their finances in the 2014-2015 allocations from the national budget. MCP spokesperson on financial matters, Kusamba Zonzi, said Malawi Parliament has approved national budgets for the last 50 years, and mid-year review processes of the budget have been conducted, adding that despite these budgets being passed, there is a continued growth of poverty in the country. He indicated that success of the economy does not depend on the allocations passed by the Parliament, but the quality of ideas that govern the implementation of all government activities, hence the need to review before allocating more resources to all departments and ministries. On the part of the People's Party, spokesperson on financial matters, Rafu Juma, said the mid-year budget review statement by the Finance Minister Gudo Kondi last week lacked details, also calling for proper scrutiny of all allocations. Mr. Juma said the People's Party is very much concerned with government institutions like the Malawi Defence Force and the Malawi Police Service, saying their overspending for the last 6 months will have a negative impact on the national budget, which already lacks support. He then said it is time government moves away from the traditional way of increasing allocations without proper scrutiny on how the funds allocated have been used, adding that Malawians should be ready to cough through tax to service such misappropriations of funds. United Democratic Front financial spokesperson Pemba Msusa, besides praising the DDP government for surviving without donor support for 6 months, advised the House to start approving allocations in line with recommended activities of these government departments. Mr. Msusa said UDF would like to see accountability on all the activities of government in such mid-year review to avoid approving funds that will be misappropriated. After the responses from the political parties' financial spokespersons, the general debate was now open for all members of Parliament to also contribute. A total of 303 billion kwacha has been used for the past 6 months out of 750 billion kwacha 2014-2015 national budget, which was approved last year. And currently, government is asking for additional 32 billion kwacha, making the total national budget to 780 billion kwacha. The mid-year review meeting of Parliament continues Tuesday morning. For ZBS News from Parliament Building in Lilongwe, I am Jacqueline Khema reporting.
Meanwhile, an economic expert has tipped government to continue talks with the donor community to ensure resumption of the full budget support from most of those that withdrew their aid. Mr. Dalitso Kubalasa of the Malawi Economic Justice Network says it is only through continued dialogue that most of the donors can resume their aid. Mr. Kubalasa was reacting to concerns raised by Finance Minister Gudo Gondwe in the mid-year budget's review statement that lack of donor aid has negatively affected the 2014-2015 national budget. Jacqueline Shema again.
During his presentation of the mid-year review of the 2014-2015 national budget, Finance Minister Gudo Gondwe raised a number of issues which appear to make the country's future bleak. Among other issues, he said lack of budgetary support might hurt the country's economy. Gondwe said some government ministries and departments have exhausted their allocations and might not get additional funding. But one of the country's economic analysts, Daliso Kubalasa, encouraged government to continue engaging the donor community in dialogue to get the much-needed support in the budget.
The development partners who have maybe held on to their money, to the budget support, I think they are still talking. Maybe we need to continue to hear from them what exactly do they think with all the various efforts that are being put, where is it still lacking, so that we continue to walk the talk in every aspect of the word, seriously doing business unusual. It's a negotiation process. It's the talking that needs to continue, the dialogue that needs to continue between the government and the development partners.
Mr. Kubalasa added that it was through such kind of a dialogue that government can win back the confidence of taxpayers and the donors.
The most important thing, I think, will be what is it that we are supposed to do to continue to get somewhere in as far as winning the confidence is concerned, the confidence of, first of all, the taxpayers or Malawians who have been making a huge contribution to the budget through their taxes, but also the confidence, which is, I think, most importantly, the confidence from the development partners who we still need as a bonus as we do everything to get back on our feet. I think this is the most important, I think, issue that we must get right.
Gondwe said only the African Development Bank has come in with 8 billion kwacha to the budget, and that others like World Bank and AU will help in the 2015-2016 financial year. For ZBS, this is Jacqueline Shema reporting.
The High Court in Lilongwe has ruled that former Deputy Chief of Tourism Mr. Leonard Kalonga and Angela Katengeza have a case to answer against the state in the multi-billion kwacha Cashgate. High Court Judge Fiona Mali ruled that Kalonga, the first accused, should answer 2 counts of money laundering and theft, while Katenga should answer on charges of money laundering. In the case, Katengeza's Faith Construction Company was paid more than 69 million kwacha by the Ministry of Tourism, though she never rendered any service to the ministry. Defense lawyer Gilbert Kunyongwa pleaded with the court to give them more time to prepare for arguments.
Actually, today it was just a ruling on whether the accused have got a case to answer or not, and the court has found that there is sufficient evidence to warrant the accused persons give their defense. That will be the presentation of the defense. We are yet to see on the strategy whether we are going to say something about it or whether the accused is going to exercise her right to remain silent. We are yet to assess and see the next stage to take.
Meanwhile, State Special Prosecutor Kamdon Nyasulu says the state is satisfied with the ruling.
Yeah, we expected it because now we have had how many? About 4 cases where the usual claim was that because they couldn't say who signed the checks, that therefore they have a defense. But the court wants, obviously, to find out how they got the money, because obviously these are government checks, so you don't pick them up on the street. For the state now, we'll prepare because they'll be giving their defense. So we'll have to prepare what questions to ask them, what things to verify from them.
The High Court has set 26 February 2015 as the date when the defense will present its argument in the case. Members of the clergy in the country over the weekend held national prayers in Blantyre seeking God's protection from the devastating floods which have so far killed more than 70 people and affected over 1 million. The national prayers were initiated by government to pay respect to people killed by the floods and heavy rains. Emmanuel Chibwana reports.
In December 2014, the clergy gathered at Robbins Park in the heart of the commercial city of Blantyre, pleading to God to release rain. Almost a month after the historic prayers, over 23 clergymen were on Sunday at the same venue asking the same God to protect people from effects of heavy rains. During the sermon, the clergy could not blame God for deaths of 176 people due to heavy rains. Bishop Vumbwe of Evangelical Association of Malawi noted that rains have been a source of misery, not a blessing. The man of God was quick to suggest that the situation at the moment may be a result of sin, as humankind has sodomized nature by wanton cutting of trees and general abuse of the environment. President Professor Peter Mutharika was in attendance and read the book of John 11, verse 25-27. Other political leaders present included the People's Party top brass, led by its Vice President, Brown Mpinganjira, Malawi Congress Party, led by its President, Dr. Lazarus Chakwera, just to mention a few. For ZBS in Blantyre, this is Emmanuel Chibana.
This is Zodiac News. We have more news after this. Moving on with the news, workers at the National Food Reserve Agency in Lilongwe have rejected a call by management to return to work as they negotiate their demand for a pay hike. According to a representative of the workers' union, Dimokase Piri, the employees will only resume work after getting a 45% pay hike. Sibongile Ziambo reports.
The strike at National Food Reserve Agency in Lilongwe has entered day 2. The workers at National Food Reserve Agency are demanding a 45% increment on their salaries, which they say was promised to them by Parliament last year to all civil servants countrywide. According to one of the representatives of the workers at NFRA, who did not want to be mentioned, they'll continue striking until they get what they want.
We didn't agree anything, so we'll never resume work until we agree.
Are you saying you continue to be on strike?
Yes, we'll never stop until they give us what we want.
Discussions between the workers and National Food Reserve Agency management prove futile as the workers still want to get their 45% increment. They said management has not provided a concrete solution to them, and this will make them to continue with the sit-in until they get the full 45% increment on their salaries. This is the second time workers at National Food Reserve Agency are staging a sit-in demanding the same 45% increment, which they claim was promised to them by Parliament in the last sitting. For ZBS, this is Sibongile Ziambo reporting.
Resentencing for some 170 death row inmates begins this Wednesday as part of adherence to a landmark court ruling in 2007 which nullified mandatory death penalty. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions is the first of 16 cases in the first phase starts in Zomba, with the murder convicts standing a chance for acquittal or lesser sentences. Meanwhile, 88 of the 170 case files for resentencing are missing in what has been attributed to poor record-keeping system. Senior Assistant Chief State Advocate Mr. Dzigonde Antumalunga speaks to Daniel Mawawa.
This project or campaign is not going towards abolishing the death penalty. This project, the aim is to ensure that all those people that were sentenced to the mandatory death sentence should have their cases or their sentences revisited by the courts, so that the courts should hear their peculiar circumstances and assess whether it may be possible to lower the sentences. Suffice to say that there will also be situations where the death penalty will be upheld by the courts. So, in short, this project is not moving towards abolishing the death penalty. That is perhaps a different project altogether.
You're telling us that 88 files are missing. How would you as DPP and all your stakeholders ensure that these people are not denied their access to justice?
It is important that every person has access to justice, and that is enshrined in the Malawi Constitution. So what we are doing as a project is that we are going back to the villages or the towns where these offenses took place. We are talking to witnesses that testified, or indeed we are talking to chiefs. Chiefs are people whom we hold in very high esteem. We are talking to chiefs. We are also talking to relations of the convict. But most importantly, we are talking to relatives of the deceased person or the victim. So in the end, we are trying to reconstruct those files. We are trying to reconstruct what happened in a particular case. And in the end, we are working hand in hand with the regional police officers to try to locate the investigators that took part in a particular case. investigators are also vital because they are able to recall what exactly happened in particular cases. So in the end, we are very sure that the product that we are going to have is going to be a true reflection, not a biased one, of the events as they took place.
This is Zodiac. Shortly we have the world news, but now let's move to sports. Malawi football will soon be introduced on Africa's leading sports TV channel, SuperSport, courtesy of MariChoice Malawi. MariChoice Malawi marketing manager Chimwemwe Nyirenda said this in Lilongwe last night as the company beamed the 2015 Africa Cup of Nations final on big screen. Nyirenda said SuperSport will schedule a 30-minute special program for Malawian football. According to Nyirenda, SuperSport cannot provide Malawi with full services because of its market base. So far, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Kenya and other countries enjoy SuperSport coverage for their leagues. Flames coach Young Chimozi says talent identification exercise currently underway in the 3 regions will assist in identifying players for local squad to play in Chan Tournament Football Association of Malawi announced that the coaches would drill players from regional leagues for 8 weeks during the exercise. And speaking in Lilongwe, Chimozi told Zodiac that the players will replace those that have clinched deals in Mozambique. Mike Bango reports.
This year, the Flames are expected to take part in 2015 Africa Cup Nations Championship qualifiers in March and the 2015 COSAFA Senior Change Cup in May in South Africa. According to Chimozi, some players from the current exercise will be drafted into the senior team.
Mainly we're targeting the players who are in the lower leagues, like Chipigo and the likes. So it's an exercise that is going to help us, especially in identifying young good players who can make it in the national team, especially for the future. And I think I'm hopeful that 3 or 4 guys are going to emerge from this exercise.
Asked what different will this talent identification bring as in the past it has proved futile, the Flames mentor insists the exercise will bear fruits.
I know that in the past things haven't worked well, but it depends on how you handle the things. This time around, we're trying to follow the right channel so that at least we group them together, we identify the real good players, not just bring in everybody, but at least bringing players who we think have got a future. And I think this is going to work, looking at whatever we've done, especially even in the past.
One of the players, Matthews Mwarungira, who plays for Dwangwa United in Kotakota, feels the exercise will give time to coaches to spot the hidden talent in Premier Division.
Yeah, I feel good because in Premier level, we have no any chance to play, to maybe the senior coaches to see us playing as good football as we are showing here. So I'm very happy. And indeed, I'll be fighting hard to play high level as I see some senior players playing high level. Yes.
Football Association of Malawi announced on Friday that the country's 3 football regional associations have to come up with select teams that will be training in the morning on Mondays for the next 3 weeks. Northern region has Nicholas Muhango, while South has Jack Chamangwana. For ZBS in Lilongwe, this is Mike Bango.
And in international sports, goalkeeper Abubakar Barry saved and scored the crucial spot kicks that handed Ivory Coast a dramatic 9-8 penalty shootout win over Ghana in the Africa Cup of Nations final. Barry, who appeared to cramp up during the shootout, denied fellow keeper Brima Razak one of the 5 efforts missed before slotting in the winner. More details in this BBC report.
The victory gave the Ivorians their second title in a repeat of the 1992 final. That year, Ivory Coast won 11-10 on penalties, also after a goalless draw. they'll be delighted to have emulated the feat, having gone close twice since in 2006 and 2012, on the latter occasion losing to Zambia, who were then coached by current Ivory Coast coach Hervé Renard. The Frenchman's success as coach of the Elephants makes him the first man to win the title with 2 countries.
Nigeria's Interior Minister believes the fight against Boko Haram will be successful enough for the postponed elections to go ahead, he told the BBC. Aboro Moro said he had been advised by the military that enough troops would be available in 6 weeks' time to secure the presidential ballot. More details in this BBC report.
Officials say they delayed the vote to 28th March because troops needed for security are fighting the militants. Opposition candidate Muhammadu Buhari has made a plea for calm, but he said the independence of Nigeria's Electoral Commission had been gravely compromised by the decision to postpone the elections. Meanwhile, Boko Haram launched its second attack in 3 days on neighboring Niger, targeting the border town of Difa on Sunday, and at least 1 person was killed in a blast in the town's mark.
You've been watching the news on Zodiac. The top stories once again. Opposition political parties in Parliament want proper audit in all government departments and ministries that have already blown their allocation before the House approves additional allocations. Economic expert tips government to continue talks with the donor community to ensure resumption of full budget support. High Court in Lilongwe says former Deputy Chief of Tourism Leonard Kalonga and Angela Katengeza have a case to answer against the state in the multi-billion kwacha Cashgate. And in sports, Malawi football to be introduced on Africa's leading sports TV channel, SuperSport. That's all we had for you tonight. I am Twesa Takula. Goodbye and thanks for watching.